It's cool to hear your perspective. I always like to start my interview by giving my interviewee time to introduce themselves and their operational role.
All right. All right. Well, I'm Abby Banks. I'm the owner of Goat Farm Road LLC, and we solar graze with 3,000 head of not just sheep, but goats as well. And we use the goats to try to show the solar world that the goats are not as destructive as they believe they are made out to be. If you do the goats right, they're not going to be destructive. They're not going to want to chew the wires, plant the panels, all that fun stuff. So that's kind of why I got into the solar grazing business, to kind of prove the world wrong on the goats' perspective.
So you started off as a grazer, a sheep grazer, and then you kind of got involved in solar grazing. Does that sound right?
Well, we actually started, it's funny how we started. So this probably been 17 years ago. We actually just started out as a small goat farm. And when I say small, it was probably about 50 head. We had imported from Australia. And it was actually just started out as a small farm raising them for like the goat's milk soap. We do still continue our goat's milk soap. And if you want, I can send you some so you can try it out
Cool.
if you don't mind. But we also back then used to sell a lot of starter herds to help people get into raising goats, teaching them about raising goats, teaching them about, even when we got into the sheep, we sold a few starter sheep as well. But what we did mainly with the sheep was for parasite control, because there's a lot of sheep out there that isn't really good with parasite. I won't say resistant, because there's no such thing as an animal really resistant to worms. I want to say more tolerant. And that's going to be like your Katahdins, your Barbados, your Black Hawaiians. So that's kind of where we went to. And that's the reason why we started with the Kiko goats, because they're very worm tolerant. You hardly ever have to worry about worming them. But then as we grew, we ended up with 100 head, then went 200. And then when we hit 1,000 head, we was like, we could do something more with these goats. So then we started with land clearing with the animals. People would call us in, and we would go into these places where they can get bulldozers, tractors, hard to get places that needed to be cleared out, but they can't get machinery in there. So we'd come in with our electric nettings, our electric string, come in and clear it out. And then with that progress, we slowly moved into the solar grazing, is where we are now. But we still do some land clearing still with the animals today.
Interesting. So you approached solar developers and told them you would like to graze their arrays, or was there some people that kind of approached you, or how did that look?
So it started out as where I approached them. I gave them a proposal on what we would do and how we would do it. So say like we'd come in and say like one solar site had maybe 5 different fields. And that would be like your really big fields, like your 1,000 acre farm, 1,700 acre farm, these really huge ones. And that's ones we mainly focus on. I mean, we've done the biggest one in Georgia, which is like 1,700 acres.
Wow.
And so they're saying there's like 5 fields out there. So in one field we'll start, we'll put all the animals out there, and we'll let them graze it for 21 to 30 days. Then we'll move them out and move them into another field. So then while they're in this new field grazing, we'll come back into the old field, inspect it, make sure there's nothing we have to mow. Just something that they did not eat. And just go behind them, mow it if we have to. Sometimes we didn't ever have to go behind them and mow. Sometimes we had to, because there's some things out there they're not going to eat, like Johnson grass.
Yeah.
I mean, they might nibble it, but they're not going to eat it. So we'll go out there and bush hog if we have to. Sometimes we didn't even have to bush hog. Sometimes we just have to come out there with like weed eaters or zero-turn mowers, and we'll be done in maybe a day or two. And then we can just wait for them to finish off the next field and go back in behind them.
Yeah. So you have, would you say, I guess I didn't catch the numbers. How many sheep versus goats right now do you use to do your grazing?
Well, I have more goats than I do sheep. I have about 2,000 head of Kiko goats.
Okay.
And then I have about 1,000 head of the Barbados sheep, Black Hawaiian sheep, and Katahdin sheep.
Wow. Yeah, goats aren't typically thought of as good sheep or as good grazers because I heard they jump up on panels and chew stuff. Are you seeing anything like that?
I don't, not the way I do it.
Yeah.
The goal is with a goat, and really the sheep too, you got to keep them busy. If you can keep them busy, they're not going to get bored. They're not going to want to nibble on something. So, like, where the goat problem came in is, let's just say somebody named down the road named John Doe. He got a hold of a solar field that had, say, let's say 25, 30 acres, and he wanted to put his goats out there. This man didn't see it as a profit. He just saw it as free grazing for his animals, free food for his animals.
Yeah.
Just fine and dandy. But this John Doe, let's say he threw his animals out there, never checked on them, never went out there to make sure they ate, or if they did complete eating, he never went and removed his animals off the field after they were done eating so that the grass could grow back so that he could bring his animals back to eat. So then, therefore, what happens is these animals get bored. They will start to climb on the solar arrays because they're bored. They have nothing to do. And then because there's nothing left for them to eat, they're going to start chewing wires.
Oh, wow.
So when there's nothing left to eat, that's where your problems come in.
Gotcha.
So that's where our goal is to remove them, not just for the worm control in our animals, but to keep the animals from being bored. That's why we rotate every 21 to 30 days, so that the next field, when they come off of it, has time to grow back, regurgitate, and by the time they come in, it's not tall enough. It's going to shade the panels, but it's tall enough where they will eat it.
Huh.
So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. I had a guy tell me that sheep, this is his exact words when I say this. He said, God created sheep perfectly, that they won't graze the plants all the way down to the ground. They'll leave a little stubble. Is that the same way with goats, that they will leave a little bit so that the plants can
Goats are the same way. See, goats and sheep, when they eat, they're going to look for the most tender stuff out there. They're not going to eat a weed or a grass down to where it's to that hard nub part. They don't want to really eat that. And the only way they're going to eat that part of the weed or the grass is if they get hungry. If they get hungry enough, then yes, they're going to eat it all the way down to the dirt, and then you're going to have a field where there's nothing but dirt. And you really don't want that. But another good part about using the goats is where the goats are more of a woody eater. So say like, and I have seen this, some solar arrays have trees growing up underneath them. And some people that have been out there to mow or whatever would never cut these trees down. And I have seen them. I mean, by the time I get out there to feel these trees are a good this thick and a good tall, shading them down. So I'll let my goats come in there and chew the bark off those trees. And by the time that tree is bare, no bark, I will then come in and cut that tree as far down as I can to the ground. And what that does is kill that tree. That way it does not come back up. No shoots come back up, nothing. So that's where the goats are good to come in.
Yeah.
And your goats are also going to eat more of your ivy stuff, like poison ivy, just poison oak, things like that are growing along that sheep won't touch. The goats will eat that too. But your sheep are going to be more of your grass type eater. They're going to focus more on the grass, where the goats are going to focus more on like little trees, the ivies, weeds that the sheep are not going to eat. So having them two come together to work together is really best of both worlds.
Yeah,
it really is.
Can you put both on an array at the same time, or do they have to be separated?
Put them there at the same time.
Cool. Neat. So you get your sheep out there, your goats and stuff like that. I'm just curious to know the relationship between you and the array owners. What does that look like? Are they nice to you? Do they help you with your projects, or how involved are they?
When I say they get involved, they love the animals. This one place I was at with a group, they would be out there every day. And, of course, having my livestock animals out there, I have to have livestock guardian dogs. And then at first, and I get it, when you see these big, gigantic fluff balls, you're going to think, oh, my God, it's going to eat me. Yeah. Not all the time. As long as you're not showing like you're going to be a threat or act weird, the dogs aren't going to bother you. So I started going out there with the guys and petting them, loving on them. And I've even told the guys that if they want to drive around in their trucks with dog treats and give my dogs treats as they come across my dogs, I didn't mind at all. Plus, that would show my dogs that they're friendly. So, I mean, they came to that part where they ended up doing it. And then I have so many animals I've raised on the bottle, and there's a good reason why I've raised a lot on the bottle, that when the animals would see the guys giving the dogs dog treats, my friendly ones would come up and wanted some of the dog treats, so they start giving our goats and sheep that are friendly dog treats.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
they loved it. And when we would start having babies, they would ask me if I didn't mind them bringing their wives out, bringing their children out to come see these bottle babies that I was raising or see the ones that were having babies. I'm like, I don't mind at all. I don't mind if your wives and your children come out, play with the animals. You know, I didn't mind it at all. Now, there were times when, and I don't use herding dogs at all. So I can call my goats and sheep. I'm sorry, it just started raining, so if you hear that, that's what it is. So my goats and sheep come to me when I call them, and all I have to do is say, come on, mama goats, let's go. They will start coming in a line, and the guys that I was working with at the solar company, they would sometimes follow us just to get pictures and videos. I mean, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to, when I'm out there with the company, I try to work with them. That way they will see I'm not there to be a burden. I'm there to work. My animals are there to work. My crew's there to work. But we also try to help out where we can out there. So say like if they're trying to come in through the gates and the gate is coming back on them, we don't mind standing there and holding the gate. I mean, we don't mind trying to help out where we can. And there's one place I was at, if they weren't there for a whole day and I would see packages be delivered and just sit there, I'd even call them and told them that they had a package. They gave me permission to pick up the packages and keep them with me until they showed up.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I don't mind trying to help them. They didn't mind trying to help me. I mean, we just kind of was right there with each other. And also when I go to these places, I get a hold of the sheriff's department. Let them know where we're at. Let them know what we're doing. That way, if anyone sees us moving, because sometimes you have to walk these goats a mile down a road, and I'll call them to help block roads and whatnot. I ended up working very closely with one sheriff's department that he ended up bringing his whole sheriff department crew out just to see the animals.
Wow, interesting.
So,
fascinating. Does the solar developer, the companies that own these arrays, do they ever ask you to allow them to bring tours out, like where they'll bring the public to kind of see the array and see the animals?
well, I mentioned that with one company I did, and they could never really give me a 100% answer on what we could do with that, because I wanted to also, one time when we was out in one place, and it was in Twiggs County here in Georgia, I wanted to bring in the public schools, have them come through and do basically like a school field trip, a class for them, so they can see how the solar arrays are working out in these big fields, but yet it's not taking away from farmers. It's still being used for farm production,
Yeah.
which is us grazing underneath the panels. We're still raising the animals there, still having babies. I was still milking my animals so I can make my goat's milk soaps. I mean, I wanted to do that. And another thing I talked to him about what we wanted to do with these students was, where the main fence is before you go into a solar array? They had an empty spot that we kept mowed for them. And I asked them if I didn't mind having students come in after we had a class, plant that out with nothing but wildflowers for the honeybees. That way honeybees could come in and have a population. I mean, we talked about it, but they never did give me a 100% yes and a 100% no. So that never went anywhere, but I thought doing something like that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
I really did.
But ultimately, you're not participating in tours, though, huh?
No, I tried really hard to get something like that to come in, but like I said, they never really gave me a 100% yes, never gave me a 100% no. It just kind of stayed like in the floating area.
Yeah.
No one could, they just couldn't, I don't know. It was weird. But I thought it was a good idea, and I still think it's a good idea to teach them.
I think it's a great idea. Personally, I think it's an awesome idea, and they should be doing a lot more of it.
They should. They really should.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind doing stuff like that.
I'm thinking about these large arrays. You're the first grazer that I talked to that said that they've done 1,000-acre arrays and grazed on them. So can you tell me about, like, I know the animals, they drink a lot of water, don't they? Is there a well?
Especially during the summer.
Arrays?
So the large arrays I did, they did have a well there, and they did give us permission to use their well. which was awesome because we have one of these 1,000-gallon water tanks that's on wheels. And some of the fields that we were in had like those small retention ponds that held water. So when they'd be in those fields, I didn't worry too much about bringing the water in. But when they go into a field that had no retention ponds in them, they allowed me to, I mean, it'd take about 2 hours, but they allowed me to fill up my 1,000-gallon water tank and take it out there and put it in a spot where it wasn't in their way. I put 2 automatic water troughs out there, and that was probably 1,000 waters probably lasted 2-3 days before we had to go and fill it up again.
Wow, that's a lot of water for those animals.
It is.
Thirsty.
It sure is.
Cool. And then, what about the insurance? Do you have to bring your own insurance policy to the array, or is that something that they have for you?
So it was 2 things. So with one company I worked with, we were allowed to be on their insurance. We had to pay so much money to start with to be on their insurance. And it covered a few things like if somebody got electrical shock out there, things like that. But on top of that, we also had to have $1 million insurance, not on just us, but we had to have it on our equipment and we had to have it on our animals, just in case, anything happened. Luckily, nothing ever happened. But we did have to have the $1 million insurance, which we still have. It took a long time to find a company to insure that much on us because most contract companies, when you tell, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll insure you. What exactly is it for? Then you go and explain it, and they're like, well, since animals are going to be involved, we're not going to insure you. So it was a long, hard fight. And the company I finally found that covered us, I love these people. They are amazing, is Next Insurance. They are a good company to work with. Not only did they insure me and my employees, they insured our work trucks, they insured our tractors, our zero-turn mowers. They've even insured our power tools and our weed eaters. It was awesome. Yeah. They also insure our four-wheelers. I mean, and they even insured my dogs. And most insurance companies don't want to insure dogs, but they insured them. So, I mean, I love that company. I love it.
Yeah. Does this protect the panels, I guess? Let's say your four-wheeler smashed into a panel or something. Does that cover that?
Okay, so it will cover it, but in a certain way. So, say, like, you're going down through the panels.
Yeah.
And say, like, let me explain it in a good way that it would be insured but not insured. So say you're going down the panels and a four-wheeler caught a wire that was hanging and you couldn't see the wire and you caught it and you ripped a solar panel, that will be considered an accident, but it would also be considered on my fault or one of my employees' fault. So then we would get a hold of the Next Insurance and they would cover that.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but sometimes too, when you're mowing and place like that bush hogs, so say like you have a bush hog going through there too, and you catch a wire, your insurance will cover that too.
Okay, so damage to the panel is covered as long as
it does cover it. It will cover it. I never had to report it, so I'm not 100% sure on if it would cover the whole cost or only half the cost. I'm not sure on that part, but I do know they would have covered it.
Interesting. So you've never damaged anything in your... Cool.
Never had anything. I never damaged anything. My animals have never damaged anything.
Yeah.
So knock on wood, we've had pretty good luck.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to know that the goats and the sheep are that safe around the panels.
They are. Huh. And like I said, the goats can be extremely safe around the panels as long as you do it right.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So just thinking about your operation, your 300 head of animals that you have. What about long-term?
3,000.
3,000. Sorry, 3,000. What about long-term goals with your operation? What are you thinking in the future? What would you like?
Well, it might be a crazy dream, but I would love to expand to about 10,000 head of animals, goats and sheep together. But I want to expand so much that I'm able to do not just the Georgia state. I would love to do Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, maybe even Tennessee and Mississippi, states like that. But I need to expand more first before I can take on those other states. Now, right now, as I am, if I split the animals up just right and my employees just right, I could probably handle Florida, South Carolina, and Alabama no problem.
Hmm.
But like I said, that's my long-term goal is to hit 10,000 or more head of animals and to expand my company out more to do these other solar sites in these other states.
Yeah. So you see more solar sites as um, opportunities basically for you.
Yes. And if we can keep growing like we have been, I would love to not only join in on interviews and conventions and stuff on the solar grazing for us. But I would love to start a class one day, hopefully, even if it's an online class, of teaching people not only are the sheep beneficial, but so are the goats, and why the goats are also just as beneficial as the sheep are.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. That's also one of my goals.
Huh. Was there any surprises that you had when you transitioned from pasture grazing to solar grazing with your animals?
Really? I mean, it was really the same because my main farm home is about 200 acres already. So, I mean, it was really just the same except bigger and under solar panels. I mean, that was really the only difference to me. I still ran it as it was my farm. They allowed me to run it as my farm. So, I mean, the companies I have worked for because most of my billies and my rams I don't keep.
Mm.
Because I have customers that has been my customers for years, and I didn't want to lose my customers because they've been loyal to me for years. I've been loyal to them. So when it came time for me to get rid of my rams and my billies, I asked them if they didn't mind my customers coming to this site or sites to pick up the billies and rams because most of them go for eating.
Yeah.
And they told me they did not mind us all at all as long as my customers didn't go inside the solar fields, which was completely understandable. I got it, understood. I was allowed to meet them outside the gates of fields. We was allowed to load them up with the animals and let them go on their way. They didn't mind it at all as long as I just didn't let them go inside the solar fields.
Yeah.
So I was still able to keep on doing that part, which was great. I love it.
Um, so, do you have any issues related to the processing of the meat of your animals? Or do you? I've heard people say that they're worried there isn't enough facilities to process all these sheep and stuff like that.
To be honest, I've never really sent any of my animals to a processor.
Oh,
I've always had my customers come directly to me.
yeah.
Now, sometimes processors themselves would come to me and say, hey, I don't have enough sheep or enough goats to make a certain order. Can I buy so many from you at this certain weight? And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine. But it's going to be a certain weight price because the animals I'm selling to you are still alive on the hoof. They're not dead. So it's going to be a little bit more pricey than you would be buying from a different source, which they understand, they know. So sometimes I sell animals that way too.
Interesting. Um, how about the meats that so you have all these sheep and goats and things like that. You're selling the meats. Do you advertise it as like solar grazed meats or any sort of advertising related to this fact that they come from a solar array?
Not really. The only thing I tell my customers, which they've always known, I've never really ever fed my animals grain. Never. For the past 17 years, I've never fed any of these animals grain. They've always been nice and healthy and fat. And that's one of the reasons why most people like to come to my animals because they're not sit there in a feedlot area being fed corn, sweet feed, whatever, 24/7. My animals are out grazing, doing whatever goats and sheep do out there in the pasture, sleeping, eating, playing with each other, just. And now a lot of my customers have said, even though I do my animals that way, when they butcher my animals, they don't have a lot of fat on them,
Yeah.
fatty parts. And they love that because they're not sitting there eating grain, gaining that same fat. Most of their body weight is actually meat weight, not fat weight.
Oh wow. Huh.
And they love it.
Yeah, I can imagine so. So I'm just curious to know where you get your information to. I know that solar grazing is kind of a newer industry. Where do you get your information when you need, when you're trying to figure out the best ways to graze and stuff like that?
My research online, and when I'm trying to get a hold of a company, I go straight to their directory, trying to find out who I need to talk to. Some companies are hard to get a hold of. Some companies are easy to get a hold of. Once you get a hold of them, though, it's easy breezy through there. They send you to the right person to talk to. You're able to get it done and over with. Now, doing my research, when I got into doing this, I was doing a lot of research through the American Solar Grazing Association,
Yeah.
which I'm also part of. I'm certified as a grazer through them. And that's the one place I do it. They do a lot of seminars, which is very informational. It's very great. I love it. A lot of people off that website, including the Miss Lexi. She is awesome. She's very nice.
Yeah.
So is Mr. Kevin. They're all very great people. And anytime that you have questions, concerns about anything, you're more than welcome to talk to them, and they're more than happy to try to help you in any way they can. Whether it's from advice, pointing you in a certain direction, giving you someone's information so you can talk to. I mean, the solar grazing community, when we all come together, it's just, we're not, I guess you can say we're not really trying to outbid the other person. We're just all here trying to help each other out.
Right.
Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Curious to know, you're managing these large sites and things like that, and the wildlife. I've heard of people talk about um, coyotes hanging around on the perimeter. Do you have any issues, or have you seen wildlife?
Oh, we've seen a lot of wildlife. So coyotes, that's one of the reasons why I have livestock guardian dogs. And mind you, I have 15 livestock guardian dogs. But I need them for the 3,000 head of animals. And I know most people will think, oh my God, that's a lot of dogs. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, if you're on a small scale, probably. But on my size scale, it really works out.
Yeah.
Because during the day, I have a group of dogs I've noticed that will sleep during the day. Then I have another group of dogs that are out working. When I say working, they go out and hang out with the animals that are grazing, chill with them, be on alert if they need to be. Then at night, they'll go to bed, and the ones that slept all day will get up and go walk that perimeter fence. And I use a tracker called Tractive, and I can watch their speeds if I'm tracking them. And if they go over 10, 15 miles per hour, I know they're chasing something. So I have had problems, not really with the coyotes coming in to the fields. I guess they knew better not to. But I have seen them outside the fences, hanging around. But they've never been inside, never had a problem like that.
Yeah.
Now, other wildlife, I have seen owls out there at the solar fields. They'll sit on the solar panels and literally watch you while you're going back and forth.
Oh, wow.
I have seen a family of skunks come through before. And one of my dogs got a little too nosy with them and ended up being a little smelly.
Yeah.
And then I've also seen, now in Twiggs County, this is where I've seen this one, was a bear. And Twiggs County is known for having their bears. And when I first seen him, he just kind of hung out in the woods. And I went and mentioned it to the solar company guys, and I called the sheriff's department and be like, hey, there's this bear over here. I don't know if he's going to be a problem for my animals or not, but I would like somebody to keep an eye on him. Well, come to find out, that bear has been there for years, and he always hangs out there. He never bothers anybody.
Huh.
So we would be driving our four-wheelers up and down the road, going from field to field, and I stopped one day because I felt like I was being watched. So I looked, and there was that bear just sitting on his butt, watching me going up and down the road.
Wow.
I could have sworn if he could have waved at me, he would have waved.
I bet he would have, huh?
Yeah, and then one time, this girl, she works for me, her name is Madison. At the time, we had some bottle babies. And when we have bottle babies on the bottle, not only do we offer them a little bit of sweet feed and hay, but we'll offer them some trees and whatnot to try to teach them to eat and graze and get weaned off the bottle. I told her to go out to the woods one day and chop down some little trees to bring to these little babies. She said, okay. She was probably only gone 10 or so minutes. She came back, and she looked like she'd seen a ghost.
Oh, wow.
She was out of breath, very pale. I was like, what's wrong with you? She goes, I seen the bear. He was breathing down my neck.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, Kay, did he do anything to you? She said, no, he was just sitting there, but I ran.
I bet I would too. Goodness.
So, but, I mean, I haven't really had no major problems with any kind of wildlife being out there in the solar arrays.
Okay, good to know. How about...
But I have seen them. I have seen the wildlife, but they've never been a problem.
Would you say the fences really kind of mitigate any issues that are around the solar arrays?
I would say they do.
Yeah.
But I really think that now for livestock purposes, probably not to do this, but to help to keep the traffic of the wildlife, of your small wildlife, like the skunks, possums, coons, foxes, instead of taking that fence, because you're going to block their usual path, and then they're going to have to find a new path to go around. That's how they end up hit on the roads, dead. If solar companies that don't want to use livestock would lift those fences up just a little bit off the ground, these wild animals can still come and go as they please.
Yeah.
They won't have to go around, go onto the highway, go onto the main roads, get hit, get killed, and then when these solar arrays are being built and a foxes or coons or someone's trying to move their family from den to den, because wild animals will do that. They'll move their family from den to den. If they're trying to move their family down a main road to go to another place because the solar fence is in the way, they're possibly going to get hit and the whole family gets killed.
Yeah.
So having the fences off the ground just a little bit would help them just to go back and forth. Because little animals like that is not going to cause a problem for solar arrays. They're not going to hurt them. They're not going to damage them.
Yeah.
Now, you don't want them so high off the ground where you get wild hogs and anything else like that in there, they'll destroy it.
Yeah, definitely. I interviewed somebody within the Solar Grazing Association, and he was telling me a story that he was dealing with recently where some group within the town that he lives in was basically very opposed to solar grazing. And
There's a lot of people out there that it's against it, yes.
And they were basically having basically like a deputized animal cruelty officer come out and harass him all the time while he was doing his grazing. Have you had any experiences with people, opposition groups, or anything like that?
No, I haven't had any problems with that, but I have seen a lot of fellow solar grazers online run into problems like that.
Really?
And I think it's crazy because honestly, even though these animals are grazing, they're not being abused. There's nothing being cruel being done to them. I mean, it's no different if they're out in an open field that's 100 acres grazing.
Yeah.
All the difference is they got solar arrays to be underneath for shade, and that's the only difference. So I don't get it. Some people are just nuts, I guess, or they just don't completely understand it, I guess.
Right.
But it is very sad to see people do that to us solar grazers, saying we're being cruel to these animals, putting them under these solar arrays, where honestly you're not hurting these animals being under these solar arrays. You're not.
I've heard from other people that the sheep or the goats, or well, sheep usually what I'm talking to people about, they like to be underneath the panels when it's hot. They'll sit in the shade. Is that
They
what
do.
you see?
Yep, my animals do that as well. And see, one person when I first started, it was actually a friend of mine. She was like, "Aren't your animals getting too hot under these solar arrays? Are they going to have a heat stroke?" I'm like, "No, not really, because I've sat under the solar arrays with my animals just to spend time with them. And even though on top of the solar panels it is really, really hot, which is understandable, but underneath them it's actually really cool. It's not hot underneath them at all.
Right.
I'm able to sit there and chill with my animals in 100-degree weather and be fine.
Right. Yeah.
I've even seen my animals with the ones that are on sun trackers. If they are tilt just right and there's a rainstorm, I have seen my animals get up against these solar panels to be blocked from the rain.
Oh wow.
I have seen them do that. They'll be in a straight line, being blocking from the rain.
Huh. So you have experience grazing underneath the solar tracking type arrays, and then do you have experience with the fixed tilts?
I have. I've done both.
And do the sheep? I mean, the sheep don't mind. They'll graze either thing, correct?
The sheep and the goats don't mind them at all. Now, obviously, with the fixed arrays, they have to be so high off the ground too. But in some spots, they can't be helped, but to be like this close. And I mean, there's no space at all from the ground, from the solar panel.
Yep.
And you are going to have your nosy little lambs, your nosy little goats get on the solar panels that way. I have seen it happen, not just with my animals, but I've seen it happen with other people's animals too. And it's just because the ground is so close right there.
Right.
And you just can't help it. But baby animals like that, they're not going to hurt the panels. I mean, they're just little lambs. I mean, it's like a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old's going to go be curious about something.
Right.
And that's all these lambs and little goats are doing. Once they're done being curious, they come right back off of it.
I'm surprised they don't slide right off.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't either.
What has been the most challenging aspects of this, of your solar grazing that you've done?
To be honest, I want to say the most challenging for me is finding the right people to talk to about getting a solar contract with any of the companies. Because, like I said before, it's very hard to find the right person. It doesn't matter if you're trying to go through, like, Onward Energy, or just Energy, any of the companies. It's always hard to find that one right person to talk to. But once you can finally find that person to talk to, it's easy selling for there. But other than that, it seems like you go from this person to that person or this person to that person because they don't know who you need to talk to, supposedly.
Interesting.
But then once you find that person, it's very easy going from there.
Yeah. So
very easy.
It doesn't sound like grazing in a solar array is that much harder at all than grazing on a pasture.
It's not. It's really the same thing. There's nothing different. The only difference is you got solar panels for shade. We're out in the middle of a big pasture. You have nothing.
Interesting. I don't know very much yet about sheep grazing and goat grazing. Will you tell me the kind of forage that should be planted or what you're kind of looking for forage?
Anything. It can be the hay grass, centipede grass. I mean, really anything. Nutweed grass. Sheep love nutweed grass. I mean, it really doesn't matter because they're still going to eat it either way.
Yeah. Clover, is that pretty popular?
Oh gosh, they love clover.
Yeah.
They do, because some places do throw the clover down on the ground, especially after they finish building a solar array. They'll throw mixed seeds out there that has like clover and things like that in it, low growing stuff. And when my animals come through and they find that stuff, they're fighting to who gets the first bite.
Yeah, I bet.
Because they love that clover stuff. And some solar companies, some solar fields have big open spaces that they don't have solar panels. And I've been allowed to throw out seed in those open spots where there's no solar panels in those fields for like winter grazing if I need it, summer grazing if I need it. I'm allowed to do it because it's not under the solar panels. It won't be shutting the panels. It's extra feed for my animals if it's needed or allowed.
Wow. It sounds like these companies can be actually very conducive to your operation. They help, they allow a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they even allow you, or some of these companies I have worked for, I don't know about other people, but during the winter, I have some of my animals sometimes during the winter on these places too, and they know there's really hardly anything growing under these panels. They even allow me to bring out hay in these open spots where there's no solar panels to be able to feed my animals.
Wow.
And they mainly let me do that because I tell them every time if there's anything left that my animals don't eat, I will come through and either mow it, make sure it gets grounded down. That way it don't, look ugly or just a big pile of old hay there.
Yeah.
I try to make sure it goes away.
Have you ever been a part of a solar array, like first year, I guess? Do you come in after a couple years after the vegetation's already, set in? Or have you been part of that, like the very beginning?
It's always been a couple of years before we come in.
Yeah.
So, like, one place we was at, that solar site was at, I think it was already 6 years old before we came out.
Okay.
Some of them's been 4 years old, 3 years old. We've never really been able to go out there yet to one that was just a year old after it's been finished, after it's completed, it's producing power. We've tried that before with one company, but that kind of went south. So, all I'm going to say is that being a solar grazer, I don't like supporting solar companies that don't support agriculture now.
No,
I do not support them.
I don't blame you.
And that company is a very big company, and I wish they will go bankrupt. They did me wrong.
Some of them are going bankrupt right now. I'm not sure if you're following the solar industry.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be ill will, but that one company, I do wish they go bankrupt because they did me wrong with my company.
Yeah.
They did me very wrong. And I can explain what they did to you if you want to hear it.
It's all anonymous. Anything you say is anonymous. So, like I said,
okay.
I don't talk about it.
So this company is called NextEra Energy. And where I live, they was bringing in they brought it in, a very big solar field in 2 counties, not very far from me. They wanted me to come in and support them at these meetings and whatnot so they could come in. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I will, on one condition. I get the contract for solar grazing out here.
Right.
Even if it's just to mow after my animals. I get the contract since I took my time to come out to talk good about you guys, showing that it's just these animals are going to be under here. It's not going to be just solar panels here and it's going to look dead and ugly and nasty. And I even went and talked to people I know, which is people I'm friends with. I babysitted for their kids, anything like that, because they were very against these solar panels coming in.
Yeah.
So this went on for 18 months. They kept promising me I was going to get the contracts for the big one in Washington County up here and the big one in Wadley, Georgia. They promised it for me. So then when they got finished building them, they started producing power. I was like, okay, so now we're producing power. Where's my contract at? I need a sign for it so I can bring my animals out here. I need to ride the fences, make sure nothing's trying to dig in. I need to get my animals prepared to bring them in here. And since we was getting 2 of them, I needed to split my crew up, have a crew at this site and have a crew at this site. And I need to split my animals up and my dogs up. So I told him I need to do all this. Went on him hauled around there for a good long time. Finally, I put my bid contract in. And a week later, the lady emailed me back and told me we didn't get the contract. And I'm like, why didn't I get the contract? Because I was promised for 18 months I would get the contracts for both of these sites. Because I helped bring them in.
Yeah.
So then me and James, which is the other owner of this goat farm road, I wish you could have met him, but he's busy today. We made a little stink. But they did us wrong, so he's very upset. We made a little stink. We ended up getting the girl fired that sent me the email. Come to find out what she did, instead of giving us the contract, she turned around and gave it to her friend that mows and gave it to her then. So we told them, well, that was wrong. You guys promised us this. We still should get the contract. Y'all should terminate the other contract. We should get it, that just be right. They wouldn't do it, so it's been a long thing. Then, after all that, they told us on a phone call that they do not do anything with agriculture under their panels. I'm like, okay, one, you guys wanted to support us, so we supported you guys. You promised us we could have our animals under there with a contract. And not just that, you just flat out lied to us and told us you don't do anything agriculture under your panels. Where I know in Florida, even though it's a small site, it's like 20, 25 acres, you guys have sheep on that solar array. So you just flat out lied to me.
Wow.
So it's been my mission ever since not to support any company that does not support anything with agriculture on it. I told James, I don't care if they don't support the crops, the livestock, the bees. If they don't support any of that, I'm not supporting them in any way.
I don't blame you. That is just appalling. It's manipulative.
It was very manipulative. And then NextEra Energy had the guts to call me back at the beginning of this year. I think it was like February or March. They wanted to bring in a 1,000-acre solar farm in my home county, Johnson County, on my friend's farm. My friend asked me about it. He goes, how do you feel about this? And I won't say my friend's name, but I told him I love him. I support him in any way with his cows. He supported me in any way I need. If I've ever needed feed, he made sure I had feed if I ever needed it for anybody. And I told him I would no longer be his friend if he let this company come out because of what they did.
Wow.
So he said he wasn't going to bring that company out, but they called me and asked me, next year I did, if I would go to a meeting in Johnson County about bringing in another field. And I'm like, no, I will not go to that meeting. And if I do, I will be bashing you guys so hard. I will make sure Nexair Energy does not put a solar farm in my county.
Yeah. I can't. That's just ridiculous if they did that to you.
Yeah, and then they had the guts to ask me to go support him again.
That's just
like,
crazy.
No. One guy we talked to next era, he goes, well, we can do anything we want because all we have to do is write people a check and they'll bend to our will. His words, not mine. And I'm like, some people may see it as money, but me, I don't see it as money.
Uh-huh. Wow. That's very interesting. I'm sorry that you had this experience with Nextera. I noticed they won't participate in my project either. Related to, I'm trying to talk to them about agrivoltaics. They won't participate. They don't want anything to do with me.
Well, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
They're very wrong people, and it's just, I know they're a very big company. They're also in with Florida Light and Power, but they're just very wrong, especially what they did. And then they say they don't support anything agriculture under their panels, but yet they got a herd of 30 sheep on 25 acres in Florida.
Uh-huh.
Tell me, how does that make sense?
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe they did that. I'm sorry. Thank you for sharing the story with me, though. It gets me a better perspective as to who I'm talking to when I'm interviewing solar developers.
Yeah. Well, and companies like Nextera, like I said, I will not be supporting them. I don't mind supporting any other company that supports agriculture, but companies like that, mm-mm.
Yeah. Wow. Goodness gracious. Well, how about the companies that are good to you, good towards agrivoltaics? I'm just curious to know lease length. What are you given 5-year leases on these solar arrays? 10 years? 1 year? What does that look like?
I've seen 1-year contracts. I've seen 3-year contracts. The most I've ever seen is a 4-year contract. But most of the time they get renewed by the time the contract's over because, like companies tell me, it's a lot cheaper to use the animals than it is bringing in machinery. But not just that, you're not harming the environment. Like I told them, you're not harming the environment when you bring in these animals. When you bring in the machinery, you're bringing in fossil fuel. You're damaging with chemicals. I mean, and they agree.
Yeah, yeah. How about have you seen the effect on the pasture from your bringing your sheep and goats in? Does the vegetation look better after they've been grazing for a couple years or even 1 year?
Yeah. So if I've noticed, especially on the 3-year contracts. So say that first year we grazed, and then the second year, I have noticed the grass is not just growing a little bit faster, but you can't help it. It's natural fertilizer being turned into the grass, returned to the grass. But it's greener and it's thicker because my animals have grazed on it. And my animals also seem to love it. I'm sorry if you hear a goat in the background. But my animals also seem to love it better when they've been able to be out there a year or two, and they're still able to continue doing that rotation. Because I guess the grass gets a better taste to them, I guess. I don't know. Can't ask them personally. But I have noticed when we've been out there a year or two, and if I turn them into a field, my animals act more excited, I've noticed, to go into that other field. Because when they run past me to go through that gate, it sounds like a stampede.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have noticed that.
Huh. So forgive me, I don't know a lot about the sheep grazing and the goat grazing. What does that look like as far as timing? Will you take them out there in the spring and then let maybe calving during the summer or something like that, and then sell them as they're getting older at the end of the year? Will you explain?
Now, what I do, I keep them out there all year round with my contracts.
Oh, wow.
I keep them out there all year round with my contracts. But if I'm at a place that has like 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 fields, and I need to get rid of my billies or my rams, so I will separate them and I'll put them in another field by themselves.
Okay.
And then as those customers come in, I'll meet them right there at that gate, and I'll load their trailer up from my trailer of what they have. And sometimes people will pick up 15 head, 100 head, 50 head. It just depends on how many head they want. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of how I do it.
so
I know it's different for everybody else.
calving does happen out there in the arrays sometimes, or calving, or having babies, I guess.
Lambing, hitting, seething, yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
it does.
It does happen. And well, what we try to do, if we're out with a field or solar farm, and if they have one field that is that's by itself, because I know some of them have it, some of them don't. So say like one place we was at, it had a 45-acre solar field on that farm. We would take all our pregnant animals and the ones that just had babies onto that small spot, and each mama and baby, we would give them 3 weeks in that field to bond with their baby, let the babies nurse really good, let them get good feet underneath them, and then once they hit that 2-3 week old mark, we will grab those mamas and babies that are 2-3 weeks old and go put them back with the big herd back in the big fields of 200 acres, 300 acres, 400 acres, whichever. And the reason why we do that is to make sure the babies don't get lost in the bigger fields, because now sheep are different than goats. When baby lambs are born, they come out of the womb running. Oh. I swear. They come out of the womb running. They're already up nursing. They're already walking. They're already playing. Huh. Goats, on the other hand, are different. When a baby goat is born, that mama and baby will lay there in that spot for a good 2-3 days before she gets up and moves that baby. Then with that being said, this mama goat, if she ends up moving 2-3 days later from that spot she gave birth in, and goes, say, maybe 200 feet down from where she gave birth to graze, she'll lay her baby down and tell that baby to not move, and she'll leave that baby there. But then she'll forget where she left her baby, and there you go. You have a lost child.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes if you have them in that big area, you might get lucky. You might find the baby. And if you do find the baby, it's always going to be a 50-50 chance that mama goat is going to take that baby back, or she's going to say that baby is not hers, and you have to raise the baby on the bottle. Wow. And then you also have a chance of a owl coming through, and I have seen it happen. I have seen an owl swoop down and pick up a baby goat and eat it.
Wow.
So that's one reason why we also try to put them in a small area where they can be confined for a good 2-3 weeks. That way they can get good feet underneath them and they can be turned back loose. Because by the time they're 2-3 weeks old, they're going to be following their mamas. They're not going to want to leave their mamas. So it just gives me insurance.
Yeah. When is baby calving season, a kidding season? When is that in June or July or earlier than that?
So it's different for everybody else. There's a lot of people that like to have summer babies. Me, personally, I don't like to have summer babies. Okay. Because they seem to be weaker. They seem to end up with worms a lot easier. And they seem to not have a very good immune system. So me, personally, I like to have winter babies or early spring babies. Yeah. That way their immune system is already up and good and running. Their ruminant is good and running. And it's going to, by the time late spring, early summer hits, all these worm eggs have hatched, and maybe by then they're going to have a good immune system, to help fight off the worms. Because another thing I do with my animals, I don't deworm my animals every 6-3 months like most people do. I deworm all my animals once a year, whether they need it or not, and I do that to make sure my animals are tolerant against the worms, their immune system can fight off the worms, and having 3,000 head of animals, you can imagine what dewormer costs.
I can only imagine.
So I have a system that works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to change gears a little bit here and talk less about your experience farming underneath the array and just talk about generally like solar energy in your area. Do you feel like your community, communities around you, are they receptive to solar energy? Or is there a lot of protests at these solar arrays?
There's a lot of protest around here.
Oh, really?
There is a lot of protests, but there's also a lot of people I don't want to say it's about 50-50, but I have come across a lot of people around here that is against it. Mm-hmm. When Sandersville came in with next year, and I was trying to get it. That's why I went and talked to a lot of people I knew, especially one lady I knew very, very well. It was coming across from her area where her house is. I mean, she lives across the road, and there's a solar field right there. So I can see why she wanted to complain. She did complain a little bit. I talked to her, and I'm like, look, I'm going to be bringing my animals out there to solar graze. So that way you're not going to be looking at no ugly solar panel. It's not going to look like dead land out there. You're still going to be able to see animals out there working. You're going to see my dogs working. You're going to see goats and sheep busy trying to keep the solar panels from shading. You're going to probably see me either walking the fence or riding the fence line with my four-wheeler. And if you ever wanted to come along to the fence line to say hi to me or come see the animals, give the dogs treats, you're more than welcome to do that. We don't mind. So that did change her mind up a little bit. Yeah. But when she found out what they did, she did go back to her protesting, which honestly, can't blame her. Right. I would have too.
Yeah.
So, but things like that I have seen now. My community, Johnson County, we are currently trying to bring in a solar farm. I think it's with AES, which they got a real tiny one in Dublin, Georgia. I think it's only like 40 acres. Mm-hmm. And AES, I think it's AES. I could be wrong on that. I want to say it's AES though. But we've already had a meeting. They've already said they're not going to bring this solar farm in unless they do something agriculture on it, whether it's crops, livestock, or the bees. And the land they're going to be putting it on is a farmer friend of mine. And when I say farmer friend, this man has like 5,000 head of cows. Wow. I mean, he's nothing but a cow farmer, and he's going to put it on his land. And he told this company that if they're going to bring in the solar field, they got to do something agriculture on it. And at first, he told them they need to have his cows under there. And they told him they wouldn't mind doing the cows, but they can't do the cows in Georgia because something, they can't make the solar panels so high for the cows or whatever. Not 100% sure. I don't remember that conversation. But he did tell them if they put the solar arrays on his property, they've got to have us out there. No ifs, ands, or buts. They got to have us out there. So I think they're going to have us out there. Now, with that being said, of course, it's going to be 7-10 years from now or so. But he told them they have to put us out there with our animals in order to put it on his land.
And that 7 to 10 years you just mentioned, is that pretty standard that it takes that long to plan and then construct the solar array?
That's pretty standard. Sometimes it takes longer than that.
Wow.
So, I mean, it can take a long time.
Yeah.
Because, you got to think about it. You got to come in. Not only do you got to talk to the community, you got to talk to the council people here in the community. Then you need to have a surveyor come in, survey off the land. That can take a while. Then you got to have somebody, if it's not already clear-cut land, you got to have somebody come in and clear-cut the land. Then you need to have somebody come behind those clear-cutters and remove all the old dead stumps. Try to make the land as smooth as possible with hardly any hills, which is going to be hardly impossible sometimes. And then you got to come in and build the solar arrays, build the fence, get the power connected. So, yeah, you're looking a good 7, 10, maybe 15 years with getting all that done.
Jeez. Huh. That's a time commitment. Hey, I know I said I was going to change gears a little bit, but I'm really curious to know, with 3,000 head of animals, what does your labor force look like? I know you can't probably do it all by yourself and your 15 dogs.
So right now it is actually just me and my partner. My partner is James Beverly. We both own Goat Farm Road. Now, during the summer months, we usually hire hand help. And usually that's anywhere from 2 helpers, sometimes all the way up to 6 helpers. Yeah. Sometimes these helpers will stay with us for a year, maybe 2 years. Now this year, we have no helpers with us this year, mainly because everyone that did work for us, it was just a summer job for them last year. So one guy, and I hate to see him live, we tried to convince him to stay. We even promised him that we would increase his pay dramatically to keep him to stay. Because he was not only did he go behind the animals to bush hog, he was also our mechanic. Oh. So we hated seeing him go. Oh, but he wanted to go. He was from Florida. He wanted to go back home to live with his family. Live in Florida so he can be with his mom. He was a mama's boy. Loved his mama. Which I love his mama too. His mama's really a nice lady. So he moved back home to Florida. So we hated seeing him go. Then one of the girls that worked for us, she took a year off college. because she was 19 at, well, she is 19. She's getting ready to turn 20. And then this year she got another part-time job, and she's trying to get back into the classes of college because she wants to be an airplane pilot.
Oh, wow.
So she's trying to go back into that. Then another boy that worked for us is actually James's son. He quit logging for a while, but then he went back to logging. And then his girlfriend helped us once in a while, mainly on her days off, because she does have another full-time job. She's a manager. But she helped us on her times off. So, I mean, it's always back and forth.
But it sounds like you do the vast majority of everything, you and your partner.
Yeah, no, I have a friend of mine, and I'm trying to convince her to come work for me, but she just quit working at the, animal shelter in Washington County, and she started her own dog grooming business.
Okay.
And she's like me. She loves animals. She'll die for the animals. She's like me. She'll die for these animals.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to convince her to come work for us because I feel like she'd be a good fit.
Interesting.
So,
Sounds like a fun job.
I try to hire people that not only is teenagers getting out of high school or going into college, try to help them so they have money to pay for college. And I also try to hire people, not only do we need mechanics, but I want somebody working for us that is also going to help take care of these animals, that's going to look after them. Because if I'm not around, I want somebody to be able to be out there with these animals while they're sitting there with them and look at an animal and be like, there's something wrong with that one. I need to go doctor it right now. Instead of letting it sit there and something happens to it before I can get back.
Yeah.
So I try to hire around those aspects.
I see. You've kind of talked about this a little bit. I figure I'll just explore it a little bit more. So agrivoltaics, the combination of farming and then solar energy in the same space. Where do you see agrivoltaics going into the future within the solar industry? Do you feel like there's going to be more sheep grazing, less, or what do you think?
Honestly, I feel like there's going to be more of it. Because a lot of these solar companies, I feel like, are about to go really down because they don't do a lot of stuff for agrivoltaics. And honestly, I'm not trying to sound rude or mean or anything, but I feel like those companies need to go down anyways if they're not supporting anything agrivoltaics. So I see a very bright future with agrivoltaics people, not with us, but the people over there for the crops, for the animals, for the bees. I mean, I see us hopefully climbing so high that one day every solar company in America has got to have something under them. They've got to have it. Because when people are with agrivoltaics, these companies not only are able to take it off as a tax write-off, they're able to get grants, they're able to get loans because they have us underneath them.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's not just beneficial to us; it's beneficial to the solar companies too.
Yeah, without a doubt. Any challenges that you see that are preventing agrivoltaics from expanding within the solar industry more?
The people that don't understand it, the protesters.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
Because there's really a lot of people that just protest it very, very hard.
It's just solar energy in general.
Well, not just solar energy. They protest the wind energy, the nuclear plants. They protest it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all politicized now too, and
Yes. Very, very much.
That's if we're trying to do this green energy and stuff, we can't be politicizing it anymore.
Exactly. And I'm with some people too. Some people say that some of these solar panels need to be built on like parking lots so that cars can park underneath them, so not only is not taking up a lot of fields, but these cars are getting shade as well. Now I can go with that. I can understand where that's coming from. I can understand that.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that argument too, that it should be placed on built environments, structures on parking garages and stuff. It's just what I've seen though, it seems like those are too small. We can put a 15-acre array on a farm field, but we can't do a 15-acre parking lot because The parking lots usually aren't that big.
Exactly. So I mean, I see best of both sides of that. I can see why it can work, and I can see why it can't work. Because even if you could, you can probably only get maybe anywhere from 1 to 5 megawatt solar system going out there.
Right. So, any advice that you would give to somebody that's an aspiring solar grazer?
Not to give up.
Really? Yeah.
Not to give up, because your first year, like I said before, some of these companies are very, very hard to get a hold of. And when you do talk to someone, they probably don't know who they're. Either they don't know, or sometimes I feel like they act like they don't know. Who to talk to, and what you already know is the management team for the vegetation side. So you're always trying to find somebody to talk in that department. Just keep pushing to talk to somebody. Keep trying all these different companies. Just because you don't get a hold of one company doesn't mean you're not going to get a solar contract. There's many, many companies out there. Keep trying to talk to somebody. Keep sending those emails. Keep sending, even if you send resumes out there, send pictures of your animals. If you are under a solar contract already and you're trying to get another one and you can't get nowhere, send them bunches of pictures. Send them bunches of videos of what you're doing already so they can see what you're doing. And if you can't get through somewhere, ask for support from another solar grazer. If you can't get nowhere your first year you want to solar graze, don't give up. Just keep trying. It's like any other company with these contracts. It is a bidding war, basically, on who gets it. And 90% of these companies are going to look for the bid that is the lowest. But most of these other companies are going to look for the bidder that is in the solar grazing community instead of ones that are going to come in with machineries.
Interesting.
Because, I mean, your first year is probably going to look down, maybe even your second year. It's going to look hard on you. You might not get nowhere. I mean, it's just hard. Those first couple of years. You just got to keep pushing. Even though it seems like you may not get nowhere, just keep pushing.
So
you'll eventually get somewhere.
It's hard to get the contracts, but once you get them, they come in.
Correct. Once you get that contract, and here's another advice will give you. If you know, as a solar grazer with one company, that you're only going to have a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract, go ahead and bug another company for another contract. Even if you tell them, hey, I am looking for a contract in this certain year, they will literally put you in the system for that year and you'll pop up for that year. They can do that. That is possible.
Yeah.
Or if you are able to, which I don't know if you can, there's not many people as big as me. What I'm able to do, if I have a 1-year or 2-year contract coming up, I will go ahead and get with another company and tell them, hey, I'm looking for a contract for this year. I can bring in this many animals. I can do this many acreage. This is roughly what I'm looking for. And then they will put me with a solar farm field they have that is close to what I'm looking for. The lowest field I will usually go with is 100 acres.
Wow. That's huge here in Iowa. That's a huge array.
That's the smallest Skittles. That's the smallest field I would usually go with. I'm sorry about the bird.
That's fine.
Now, the only way we will do a field that is like 25 or 30 acres, if it's really close to where our home farm is, or it's really close to where we already are at with the animals. And then if they don't want us to bring in the animals for that field, if we are already right there in that facility grazing, we don't mind going out there to that small field and just mowing it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. How many?
Because sometimes, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about animals per acre. Can you give me a rough estimate? What does that look like? What is safe, I guess, or what is?
Depends. You can look at it as 1 acre per 15 head of goats or sheep.
For 30 days, maybe, of grazing, or?
Yep, 21 to 30 days.
Oh, okay.
21 to 30 days.
Hmm. So yeah, you want to be a good sized grazer. You can't do this with 5 sheep and call it good.
No. Unless you want to aim at these small solar sites that are like 10, 15, 20 acres.
Hmm.
I mean, you can probably do something then, but plus, how I usually say it is if you're going to do something, you might as well go big or go home.
Abigail,
And
this
that's
is
kind of how I look at it on this side of the solar grazing. I look at it as is I'm going to go big or I'm just going to go home.
yeah,
And that's what I tell some of these companies is I am so big that I have to have the big sites. Most people don't want the big sites anyways, but I got to have the big sites because it's more worth it to me. Especially if I have to travel and move these animals. Even if I have to move these animals an hour away, an hour drive to haul 3,000 animals roughly cost me almost $50,000.
oh my goodness. Yikes.
Yes, that's not just moving the animals. That is moving my team. That is moving our equipment. That is moving our animals. That is also hiring people with trucks and trailers to move all the animals in one day.
Yikes. That's a big
So
operation.
that's Yes, that's why I tell people it's not worth it for me to do a small site. If you want me to do a site for you, I've got to have a big one. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter if it's 100 acres, 200 acres, 1,000 acres, 2,000 acres. I got to have the big ones. I cannot do these little ones.
right.
It's not worth it to me to take, say, 20, 30 head to a 10, 15 acre site. It's not worth it to me.
Hmm. No, that makes sense.
I mean, it might be worth it to the next person, but it's just not to me.
You said that your animals can stay on the array the entire year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh
I
wow.
have been allowed to let my animals stay the entire year.
Yeah, and then I guess here in Iowa it gets very cold in the winters, frigid. It's not like that where you're from, correct?
No, it's not. Now, last year we did end up having a snowstorm, which is very odd for Georgia.
Yeah. Okay.
And sadly, at that time, I was sick. I had bronchitis and all kinds of stuff going on. So I wasn't able to enjoy my animals in the snow, but I did have the people that worked for us send me pictures of the animals under the solar panels. They were building snowmans around the animals. The animals are knocking down their snowmen. I mean, they enjoyed it. I enjoyed the pictures, but things like that is a once in a lifetime experience here in Georgia because, like I said, you don't really ever have snow here, and it was so cold,
Yeah.
very very cold.
Did you have to bring the animals, or were able to stay out there through the storm, maybe?
Yep,
Okay.
we was allowed to keep them out there. Like I said, they allow us to bring hay out there to the areas that have no solar panels. So I just told my crew to make sure they have plenty of hay. Which during the wintertime we feed a lot of peanut hay. And usually we feed one bale a day because we'll unravel that hay bale and make it go a long ways. Usually we only feed one hay bale a day, but when we had that snowstorm, I told them to start feeding 2 to 3 bales a day.
Wow. Goodness.
I didn't want nobody to die from being too cold. I didn't want nobody dying from hunger. And also at the same time we had a lot of babies on the ground, so I was concerned about the mamas with the babies. So I couldn't do nothing because I was sick, but I told them they needed that. I needed that hay, no matter what. I didn't care if they gave it to them in the morning time or late in the afternoon. They had to have the hay.
Yeah. Fascinating. This has been such a cool interview. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Um,
Of
just
course, I've enjoyed it too.
one last question here for you. Well, I guess I got two. One of them, I'm a student of sustainable agriculture, so I think about sustainability a lot. And though I see agrivoltaics as a more sustainable business model than strictly open sky solar. Those arrays with just grass, turf grass. I think that the agrivoltaics is more sustainable because the public gets involved with it. You as a farmer, you're involved with it. Do you agree?
I do agree. And honestly, I agree that more people need to be involved with stuff like this.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier today, when I was with that one place over in Twiggs County, I was wanting to bring in the schools to have a field day, to give a little class. I wanted to plant the wildflowers for the bees. Not only did I was going to do it, I was going to have the children do it too. I mean, I was going to buy hundreds of dollars worth of 50-pound bags of wild flower seeds, and that stuff's not cheap either. I was willing to put my own money into that for these kids to do it. I mean, I don't know. When I go to some of these solar places, I want to try to make it very educational. Try to teach the kids about it. Try to teach their parents about it, especially the ones that are so against it that don't understand anything about it. I want to teach them. And I hope one day maybe I can grow big enough that I can do that.
Yeah, I see it happening. To be honest, I see it happening. Last question, Abigail. I really appreciate your time so much. Thinking about federal or state level policies, laws, is there any federal or state level policies that are acting as barriers to more agrivoltaics, more sheep grazing?
The only thing I've came across, and this was doing this when we was moving to Alabama. And of course it's a state law with any state when you're moving animals. The only thing I came across when I was moving my animals to do a site in Alabama, my vet had to come out and do a whole herd test on my animals, make sure they were free of diseases, illnesses, anything like that. Then my whole herd had to have a herd health certificate.
Wow.
And even though 90% of my animals already have herd tags in them, there's regular standard herd tags in them, they also had to have a Georgia state identification number in their ears in order to cross the Alabama line, just so I could bring them back home in 2 to 3 years.
Oh my goodness. That's a barrier.
Yes, because I was going through the state and whatnot, and I was explaining to them, trying to get them to understand. I was like, look, I just want to do this right so I can bring 3,000 animals and 15 dogs back home to where they belong after they do a job. I don't want to get stuck in Alabama with 3,000 head and 15 dogs at the Alabama-Georgia line without having this done right.
Wow.
Because that would have been a major headache to be stuck right there at the Alabama-Georgia line.
Right. That's, wow. Nobody's ever told me anything like that about the problems moving animals to different states.
Mm-hmm. No, the biggest state that has the most issue is Florida, moving animals back and forth from Florida. It doesn't matter if you're coming from Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina. Crossing that Florida line is always the hardest to cross.
Wow. They want to see all the paperwork and all that.
They want to see all the paperwork. They want to make sure they have the correct identification numbers in their ears, all kinds of stuff. I mean, Florida is very, very strict. And the only reason I figured that out was probably maybe not a couple of years ago, but it's been a while. I sold a herd of sheep to some people down in Florida that was getting started. I sold them a dog as well. And it was a headache to get everything correct just so they could take these animals to Florida. Even though they bought them from me, we went through the vet. The dog had to have a health certificate. The little herd they bought from me had to have a health certificate. The animals had to have ear tags. The dog didn't have to have an ear tag, but he had to go through certain testings to make sure it wasn't a disease-ridden dog and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, it was wild.
Yikes. Oh my goodness. Okay, good to know. It's fun to learn all these, where the barriers are, where things are easy, where they're not easy.
Yeah. If I want to stay in Georgia and solar graze and move my animals around, I don't have to go through things like that. Yeah. It's just when you cross the state line.
Okay. Goodness. Thinking about the partnerships to be a successful solar grazer, it sounds like you need to have a good veterinarian.
Yes, and I love my vet to death. I love him.
It sounds like you need to have a good solar developer who's willing to work with you, and then maybe a labor force that whether that's you or other people, labor force. Is there anybody else I'm forgetting here?
Make sure you have plenty of mouths ready to eat.
So mouths and people to buy your product is what you're saying.
Yep, and people to buy it from you. That way you have the extra money coming in. It doesn't matter if you're doing like I do. I have about 5 goats that I milk. Mm-hmm. And I milk them for my goat's milk soap. That's the only reason I do it for is my goat's milk soap. I don't do it for anything else. I also have kept all my original customers, and that's for my Meet the People, for my rams, my billies. And now I haven't advertised it in a very long time, but every now and then I will sell a starter herd.
Okay.
I don't sell them like I used to a couple of years because that was our main goal back then. But now I do I really don't advertise it. If someone comes to me like, hey, I want to get started in the goats. I don't know where to start. Then I'll be like, well, I'll sell you a starter herd. I'll sell you so many doelings or so many ewes. But I can also make sure that ram or buckling isn't related to those females. Because I have so many animals, I can make sure that they're not related to each other.
Yeah.
So then I can do that. And then I can also offer my dogs, which I will sell dogs anyways, whether I'm doing it for starter herds or whatever. Because throughout the year, I'll have a couple of litter of puppies, whether they're AKC registered or not AKC registered. So it's also nice to have a little bit of money coming in too.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What kind of dog? What's your favorite sheep herding dog?
Well, I have Great Pyrenees, and I've also got Anatolian Shepherds. Now, I love the Anatolian Shepherds a bit more than I do the Great Pyrenees. The Great Pyrenees are those big, white, fluffy dogs.
Yes.
The Pyrenees seem to like to want to roam a little bit more than the Anatolians do, so that's one reason why I keep trackers on them. I also do the things called Spot On Tracker. Not only does it track my dogs, but I can put a perimeter fence, and it also is an electric collar.
Yeah.
So I have that for my Great Pyrenees because, like I said, Great Pyrenees kind of like to roam a little bit more. But I love my Anatolian Shepherds. People also call them the Turkish Kangles. And they are a bit of a more of aggressive dog. They're a bit on the more aggressive side. And because I have those dogs, there's two of them I have that really make me questionable about if I need to let them be introduced to people.
Oh, wow.
Because they even make me concerned for myself sometimes. I mean, I came into the farm one night, it was probably like 10 o'clock at night, and these two dogs jumped me, and even though I was talking to them and calling their names, they still came at me. I mean, finally they was like, oh, it's just you, you're fine. But they scared me enough to have me want me to go back in my truck.
I hear ya.
I mean, my own dogs did. But I'm not going to punish them for that. They're doing their job.
Right.
So the Anatolians can be a bit more aggressive. They also don't want to roam. They don't have that drive to want to roam. They seem to want to stay with the